Start. All right, hold on.
Who
Good
the heck do
evening.
you expect me to be?
Welcome to Cornerstone Home Inspection Education Center. Tonight we have log home inspections. This will be a comprehensive guide to understanding the unique history, construction, and inspection requirements of log homes. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to break in, but after you do, please mute your microphone. At the end of the presentation, we put together a checklist, which is also now available on our website under links of interest for downloads. If we have time, we're going to go through that checklist pretty quickly and just take a look. It'll be a little repetitive, just of what we covered in this webinar. So we talk about state standards, and since we're based in Connecticut, we list the Connecticut state standard for structural systems. The inspector shall inspect the structural component, including the foundation and framing. The inspector shall probe a representative number of structural components where deterioration is suspected or where clear indications of possible deterioration exist. I went through the requirements of our other states that we are approved in, and these similar requirements exist in New Jersey, Rhode Island, New York, and Massachusetts, with all requiring thorough structural assessment, but not specifying log home specific protocols. So I will tell you that the absence of these protocols can increase your liability if you don't know what you're doing. We don't see a lot of log homes, especially in Connecticut. So that's something that you've got to take into account of, and you've got to leave more time for your inspection when you do it, because you don't see something often, you're not as proficient at it. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of a log home, and I'll just read through this quickly. Many Americans view the log cabin as a home of historic pioneers, or at least a great weekend escape. The log cabin was originally disdained here in America, and it took decades of pop culture and political shifts to elevate the structure to be vaunted status it holds today. There are plenty imagery portraying log cabins in New England colonies of Plymouth and Jamestown, established in Massachusetts and Virginia. These depictions couldn't be further from the truth. The English had no history of log cabins. They preferred more refined frame houses and would sometimes squat in subterranean dugouts until they could be built. In fact, the log cabin was first constructed in the New World in short-lived colony of New Sweden, established in the Delaware River Valley in 1638. Such structures had been around continental Europe for centuries, and the Swedish colonists were simply using a skill that had been passed down through the generation. The cabin's rustic qualities, once seemed crude, became celebrated as authentically American. The log home and its inhabitants, the public image, got a makeover after the War of 1812. We defeated the British for a second time, and we were feeling good. We wanted to forge our own identity and distinguish ourselves from the old world. Log cabins were appropriately rustic, starting taking on an all-American sheen. Soon enough, writers and artists were portraying them in a positive light. One noted example is James Fenimore Cooper's 1823 novel, The Pioneers, where houses were built and described as being rough log cabins. That scene, in turn, is thought to have inspired artist Thomas Cole's 1826 painting, Daniel Boone sitting at the door of his log cabin on the Great Osage Lake. Together, these works helped spark an entire movement that saw pioneers as a hero. Log cabin dwellers were no longer disdained through their rough edges. These same edges were made through romantic and distinctly American. So, types of log cabins. We have handcrafted log cabins, individually crafted logs with natural tapers and character, often larger diameter logs, 10 to 16 inches. Traditional joinery techniques. Each log is unique and hand fitted. Greater settlement potential due to variety log, excuse me, greater settlement potential due to varied log sizes. Then we have milled log homes. And these are machine process logs with uniform dimensions, typically smaller dimensions, 6 to 8 inches, precision cut notches and groove systems, which leads to more consistent settling patterns, often included specific manufacturer details you should document. You have pictures of each on the left and right here. Here we go. What is a log cabin? So the dictionary definition is a log cabin is made from logs, often associated with humble beginnings and pioneer life. Cultural significance, often used symbiotically to represent simplicity, self reliance, and the American frontier spirit. Architecturally, the dwelling constructed from horizontally stacked logs with interlocking corner notches. The log cabin has transcended its simple definition to become a powerful symbol in American cultural history. Building the log cabin, we're going to chop down trees, trimming them, dragging them to the home site, stacking tree trunks one on top of another, and overlapping the logs at the corners. Developing an interlocking corner by notching the logs at the end, resulting in strong structures that were easier to make weather tight by inserting moss or other soft material into the joints. Pouring the piers and foundation below the frost line, sealing the logs, installing joists and subflooring, framing the roof, attaching roof boards and sheathing, assembling the door and windows, notching the logs and putting together with chimney and the fireplace. So we're going to get into this as we get more into the presentation, but these structures are obviously are a little bit different from your normal home that you're inspecting because nothing's encapsulated. You're going to be seeing everything that the structure has to offer. The modern log home evolution. While traditional log cabins have its charm, the modern log cabin takes things to another level by incorporating contemporary design elements. The result is a space that feels both timeless and fresh. Modern design focuses on clean lines, open spaces, and a seamless connection between the indoors and the outdoors. This is where modern log cabin truly shines. One of the key features of the log cabin is the use of large windows. These windows not only flood the space with natural light, but also create a strong connection to the surrounding landscape. Whether your cabin overlooks a forest, a lake, a mountain, those views become integral part of your living space. The modern log cabin doesn't just sit in nature, it embraces it, making the outside world part of the experience. Inside the log cabin offers feature a minimal approach. This doesn't mean that the space is cold or uninviting, quite the opposite. By keeping things simple, the natural beauty of the logs can take center stage. Modern log cabin interiors often include open floor pans where the kitchen, dining, and living areas flow into one another. This creates a sense of spaciousness that's both functional and welcoming. In addition to large windows and open layouts, the modern log cabin also make use of contemporary material. Steel, glass, and stone are often combined with wood to create a look that is both rustic and refined. The result is a cabin that feels solid and grounded, but also stylish and up to date. Here's a sample of a log home. You can see a couple of the features here that we would probably call out as home inspectors is the railing space on the porch, but you see footings, but you also see stairs without railings. Um, some of the posts aren't put on the deck on the left side. So there's some things, but you see a modern roof, chimney structure that the house is built around, the integration of skylights. Same materials, different approach. We're going to talk about modern manufacturing and specialized construction. There are home builders who specialize in the construction of log cabins as well. They can be built on piers, pyramid foundations, crawl spaces, and basements. Most modern log cabins built today are kit homes. There are many designs to choose from, and one is selected. The manufacturer begins to put it together, very much like a modular home would be manufactured. We have a question on when machine ones started being produced. We'll have to do a little research on that. Maybe this is going to be later. This will probably be covered later in the presentation. Diverse architectural styles. Log homes span numerous architectural traditions, from small hunting cabins to elaborate mountain lodges with distinctive regional characteristics. You can see here that they're using a crane to put the house together. If you're viewing this as a recorded webinar, your viewing code is LG 2025. Inspections, same but different. So those of us in the Northeast are not likely to inspect many log cabins, as I've stated. Um, Stan put this section together, and he says that he's done about 6 in 36 years. The exterior items we inspect for and address for every home are the same concerns for log cabins. However, most of the exterior repairs eventually are needed are much more difficult because of the building materials. This is not a piece of siding or vinyl that you can just replace. If there's damage to the log, it can be a comprehensive repair. Moisture, the root of all evil. Moisture is the enemy of any home. However, replacing a few decayed shingles is easier than repairing a damaged log. It's a serious threat to log homes. You have to be careful when you're inspecting a log home to check for moisture in the logs. Is there water pulling up on any of the logs? What's the color look like? Is there any staining of the logs? Have the logs been finished with a treated, with a material that treats the logs to prevent moisture intrusion? Again, when we're inspecting these, we want to make sure, again, like any house, that the grading is moving away from the land, that logs aren't sitting too low to the ground. We want to make sure there's a foundation. Um, so you want to be focusing the inspection on the exterior wall material of the log cabin. Repairing moisture on damaged logs requires specialized technique and is far more complex, as we've said. Things to look for. Fact that there's no landscaping close to exterior log walls. All plants and trees should be kept at least 3 feet away from the logs so that air can circulate freely and there's no risk of splashback when it rains. Be sure that gutters and downspouts have been installed and are in good working order. It's very important that water gets directed away from the cabin. Moisture control and water runoff management are key when dealing with log homes. Inspect any wood that's within 18 inches of the ground or softness or punky wood indicating rot. If any wood has been directed in direct contact with the ground, it must be suspect and inspected carefully. Check caulking around the windows and door bucks and where logs join, such as butt joints and corners. Old, dried out caulking can shrink and allow air infiltration as well as bugs. In some cases, it can make the situation worse by collecting and holding water. Remove loose caulk and replace with good caulk. Uh, carefully, carefully inspect the exterior finish for patterns of wear, fading, or weathering. Keep in mind that south facing and west facing logs get more sun exposure, which can cause wood finishes and stains to occur more rapidly. What you're looking for is sort of a whitish sort of stain that can happen as the water and efflorescence is left on the log and the minerals from the water. You'll see that on the underside of the log sometimes. Ryan's done 2 inspections on log cabins this week. That's crazy. I've done 2. Um, Log walls that face the prevailing winds will get more rain, and here you'll be more likely to see black stains from water seepage and mold and mildew. Some log styles have exposed log ends that can be susceptible to water damage from the water wicking into the exposed wood cells. If your cabin roofing is asphalt or composite shingles, check the gutters to see if there's a collection of granules which have worn off the roof. These sand-like granules are embedded in the asphalt shingles to allow it to expand and contract in the heat and cold. When they start wearing off, you know your roof will be replacing. You'll need to replace that roof soon. So it's like, if you have an asphalt shingle, you're doing the same kind of inspection that you would on a regular house. Check out how well the finish is holding up by seeing if it beads up when splashed with water. If the water simply soaks into the wood surface, it's time to renew your log cabin stain or finish. Make sure that firewood or other wood piles have been kept at least 3 feet away from the cabin. Wood is a termite food, and they will build a trail from the dead wood to the wood pile into the log cabins. You want to include your porches, decks, and other outdoor rooms in your cabin exterior inspection to assess their integrity and construction, as this will give you a good indication of the quality of work done on the cabin itself. Are they securely fashioned to the structure? Are the stairs and railings sturdy and strong? Any evidence of rotting or settling? Logs will naturally check and crack as they dry, but any large checks over a quarter inch should be filled with log caulk, especially upward facing cracks that collect rain and dirt. This cracking is important to look for, but not to get crazy about. Wood's going to crack. But again, if it's over a quarter of an inch, it's got to be repaired and filled because the more that water just sits in there, it's just going to decay the wood just a lot faster. Chinking, the cabin's protective seal. Chinking is the flexible sealant material that fills the gaps between the logs to create a weather-tight seal. It prevents water infiltration while allowing the logs to breathe and move naturally. Today's synthetic chinking materials offer superior flexibility, adhesion, and longevity compared to historical options. When it comes to building, purchasing, or maintaining a log cabin, you can't go too far without discussing log cabin chinking. Chinking is the material that fits between the imperfect joints of a log cabin to assure a seal. We want to keep out the rain, the snow, the sleet, and then also that's going to keep in the heat and prevent any air infiltration. In simple terms, chinking is flexible sealant used during your log home's construction to maintain seal joints between logs, gaps, holes, and checking. Um, Log home chinking today has replaced traditional Portland cement and dubbing, which is historically used in log homes over 200 years ago. The evolution of this material. Traditional materials were clay, sand, lime mixture. They were prone to cracking. They required regular maintenance. They had a natural appearance, but they were less weatherproof. Today, we have synthetics, polyurethane-based elastomers, which are flexible. They move with the logs. They have lifespans of 25 to 30 years. You have different colors, superior weatherproofing. So the rest of this here is just sort of going over what we just talked about. You know, the flexible elastic sealing resembles the appearance of this old Portland cement, which was used to seal the logs together. Prior to cement-based chinking, traditional chinking was made from a mixture of clay, sand, and lime, silt, ash, and dirt. The inner layer was traditionally known as daubing, and the outer layer was commonly known as chinking. So you have to check all that, make sure there's no missing sections, no missing, damaged sections, and note that in your reports. Again, we've covered this. We have the acrylic-based chinking, which is water-based, environmentally friendly. It's a good observation. We have our synthetic polymer, which provides elasticity, and butt and pass systems. Some modern log homes use specialized joinery techniques that minimize or eliminate the chinking. Precise mill logs, gasket materials between logs. And again, this creates a different look to the log cabin, more modern look. Exterior inspections. So again, we're going to go through this, but this is the same on most of your houses that you're going to do, or not all your houses. Landscape proximity. Ensure that all plants and trees remain at least 3 feet from the exterior log walls. Check gutters and downspouts for proper function and water direction away from the structure. Make sure those extensions on those downspouts are installed. Again, we need that 18 inches of ground clearance to prevent softness or rot, particularly at the ground or any connection points, ground contact points. And again, the sealing condition. We want to make sure that the caulking is good around doors, windows. Look for any deterioration, look for shrinking. So we have a couple of primary log styles. We have the round log construction, which uses logs that maintain their natural cylindrical shape, creating a traditional rustic appearance with distinctive shadow lines. We have our square cut D log construction, featuring logs milled from flat on the interior and sometimes exterior faces, creating a tighter seal and more finished look. And corner systems. Both styles utilize various corner notching systems that affect both aesthetics and structural stability. You can see samples here. Log cabin settlement patterns. Log cabin construction techniques vary by region, influenced by local timber availability and cultural traditional settlers. The Appalachian region became particularly known for its distinctive log cabin building styles. You can see the percentage here of log cabins. Inspection challenges. Log cabins require the same inspection categories as conventional homes with specialized knowledge of log specific issues, which we're going to get into. Again, repair complexity. Repair to log structures are generally more difficult and costly than traditional homes due to material size and integration. It's hard to get in there and replace a log if it's damaged. In the Northeast, inspectors may encounter fewer log cabins, again, 6 in 36 years, but we just had a gentleman do two this week. Limiting the experience with these structures. Again, when I'm not doing something again and again and again and again and again, I'm going to have to take more time, sit there, think about it, and contemplate how I want to go about the inspection. Um, I sort of get into a routine when I inspect. So I'm going to be doing the same thing again and again and again. On a log cabin, when I'm doing what would be called the siding, I'm probably spending a lot more time than I'm just looking at for vinyl siding when I'm looking there. So that's going to extend how long you're on the outside. So if you have time constraints or anything like that for scheduling, you need to be aware of that. So if you got a log home and your normal inspections anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, you're going to add another half hour easily on a log home, if not longer. And of course, all that depends upon the size of the structure. And again, we talked about the repair complexity, and the assessment becomes critical for inspecting practices, exterior wall assessment. So we have to watch out for our sun exposure. South and west facing walls experience accelerated weather from UV damage, roof denigration, check the gutters again. The wind impact's important. And then we're going to look at the ends of those logs and we're going to probe them to see if there's any, kind of softness to those logs. The weather beading test. Check if weather beads on wood surfaces absorbs, indicating what the condition of the finished system is, the finish on it. So pour a little water on it. If you got a hose there, bottle of water, see what's going on. We've talked about firewood placement, porch and deck integrity. We're going to assess the outdoor attachments for proper construction and structural soundness. We want to make sure there's footings. We want to make sure everything's solid underfoot and level. We're still lag bolting decks, if it's a different material. But we want to make sure that we have good support. And then again, we talked about this is really important for the cracks over a 1/4 inch that required filling, especially if they're up. If they're underneath or on the bottom, not so much a big deal because everything's going to sort of drain away from those cracks. Again, we've talked about, and we have some samples here of the modern commercial products of the chinking. You can see here on the left, gentleman sort of inspecting this, and this looks like more of a caulk based. And the application methods, they have specialized tools that just go in there and fill those joints. And again, this is not something that the homeowner is going to do. You need a professional, people who do this all the time, a specialized log building company or contractor. Okay, what is a gap backer rod for chinking? A backer rod function, it's a foam material that fills deep gaps before the chinking application. You can see what they're doing here. Okay. Um, it's compressible, it's closed cell foam that doesn't absorb moisture. It's pressed into the gaps to create proper depth for the chinking material. So you can't go too deep, can't go too, not deep enough. And the benefits of this is it saves chinking material and creates a proper joint flexibility. Proper backer rod installation is crucial for chinking performance. It prevents 3-point adhesion that can cause premature chinking failure when logs move seasonally. We all know wood expands and contracts And that's what the chinking there is for. And the more modern chinking, it's going to help that process of expansion and contraction to, again, not to reiterate this, but water intrusion, moisture intrusion, air, and thermal. All right. Log damage and repair challenges. So here you have a sample of some damaged logs. Okay. And water and wind can damage, fire damage, insect, finish failure. You got to take a look at. So if you're in the south and west and you're looking at the logs and they look different from the north and south, they're getting worn greater and has that finish and has that wood treatment deteriorated to the fact where that stain is going to lead to moisture penetration. So we have to document all that, and pictures, pictures, pictures. Protective design features. Again, water causes more damage to the log's home than fire. Preventative design. Designing for water protection is easier than remediating it later. So a good builder will make sure that the gutters are installed correctly, that they have extensions, that everything that we talked about water moving away from the structure happens. We want to make sure that we have proper overhangs. Um, the association recommends 1 foot of overhang per 8 feet of wall, the log height. Ventilation, proper circulation keeps the log dry and prevents moisture accumulation. A well ventilated property protects logs and can last indefinitely with minimal maintenance. If we see a lot of trees, a lot of vegetation, this is going to cause issues on any house, but especially a log house. Critical sealing points. Every crack, joint, and crevice must be properly sealed for water and pest resistance. Protective coating. Quality log stain or sealants creates a breathable barrier against moisture penetration. Cost effective prevention. Proper protection costs far less than extensive restoration projects. So we want to have a balanced approach. Effective treatments protect against water while allowing natural wood movement. So this is more just sort of when you have the client there and you're saying, hey, listen, the protective ceiling has deteriorated on this. You're going to need to have a company come out and reseal these logs. Here's why that is important. And again, it's because it creates a breathable barrier, it's cost effective, and we don't want to have to repair these logs because, again, I've gone back through this with you, client, and it's very expensive to repair damaged logs. So we want to make sure that they're treated properly. If you are viewing this as a recorded event, your viewing code is LG 5732. Insects. Wood boring insects. Several species can damage structural integrity by tunneling through the logs. You see the damage here. Um, Most wood destroying insects prefer damp wood, making moisture control crucial. Early detection can identify infestations before extensive damage occurs. Preventative treatments. We want to have the logs treated. We want to have termite companies come out and do a treatment around the house, to keep up with the pets, keep mice out, all that. So this has to be explained to the customer that preventative maintenance is very important for insect threats to the log structure. That's why we don't store wood near homes, because those woods could those wood logs can have termites in them and they're just going to come into the house. So that's not a good thing. Carpenter ants, the silent destroyers. And here we have a sample, primarily found in already decayed or damp wood, indicating existing moisture issues. Unlike termites, carpenter ants don't eat wood, but they excavate it to create nests and tunnels. You can see some of that tunnel right there, here. The warning signs: look for sawdust like material, frass, rustling sounds in the wall, and visible ants. Treatment options: we have ant sprays, powders that can control the infestations if caught early. Carpenter bees. Um, this is what that looks like. Distinctive entry holes. You'll see this on trim on your conventional houses with any kind of wood trim. The 90-degree tunnel extend from the entry hall, often reused to expand. It's expanded annually. Male bees, non-stinging, guard, while females with stingers create nests. And again, we have effective treatments requiring eliminating bees before, and then also filling the holes as they can push through the caulk. So we want to check for this and document it into the report. Again, we'll talk about termites. Termites eat the wood from the inside out, making damage difficult to spot until advanced. First evidence often appears as distinctive mud tunnels on foundation walls. Most of us hopefully have seen that, and you see these little mud tubes running up the house. That's termites. Unlike carpenter ants, termites actually consume wood, hollowing out structures. They require ground contact or moisture pathways to reach wood structures. Treatment options are small infestations may respond to foam-like sprays, Spectracide, or Thermador. Uh, extensive infestations require professional extermination to prevent major structural damage. Outer post beetles. You'll see this on woods on older homes. Um, you look for fine powdery substance with tiny pinholes. Um, you'll see this on houses early 1900s. Um, it's kind of easy to spot. You go into an old house, you'll see these little pinholes. If you see active dust, you know it's active. Um, a lot of times it's not. My understanding is that a lot of times the powder post beetles were put into the wood in construction. They were sitting on the ground, and the builders just built with the powder post beetle damage. Um, they can reinfest the same wood repeatedly, causing progressive long-term structural weakening. And the treatments, again, you need to speak to a pest control expert to have that done. Flathead boars and longhorn beetles. Um, so I've seen this a couple of times on some houses. And when I was first starting out, it was confusing to me what these were. But identifying characteristics are larger round or oval exit holes, typically a quarter to inch in diameter, often found newly constructed using poorly seasoned wood. Unlike powder post beetles, these insects generally do not reinfest dried wood. Damage itself is limiting once adults emerge from the wood. Remediation, simply repairs involve filling existing holes with appropriate caulking material. No chemical treatment typically required if the wood is thoroughly dried. But so we know, again, looking at this, this is not termite damage. These are flathead borers and longhorn beetles. Wood decay, types and identification. We have brown rot. You can see darkening, shrinking, white rot. Sometimes you'll see sort of like this fuzz on top of the wood. Soft rot, you can see there. It's a slowly decay, creates a honeycomb pattern inside the wood. And again, this is just talking about moisture conditions. All types of rot require sustained moisture levels above 20% to develop and spread effectively. So if we have a moist atmosphere in the basement or outside or in the structure, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get rot. If not, if you do not deal with the moisture content. Okay, common problem areas. 70% of your problems are going to be with the lower logs. Okay, this is the percentage of rot issues occurring in the bottom of three courses of the logs. 85% on the north side. Okay, 40% on the log ends, and 30% around the windows and doors. So these are the areas that we really want to look at and pay much more attention to is our lower logs, the north side, which is going to get much more exposure, the ends of the logs to see how they're doing. You see these are not doing too well there. And all the way around the windows and doors to make sure everything's sealed properly. There's no rot, the sills are properly installed and pitched. Testing for decay during an inspection. So we're going to do a visual inspection. We're going to look for discoloration, unusual growth patterns, and sunken areas. Physical testing, probe suspicious areas with an ought to test for softness and resistance. I get to inspections kind of early, so I'll do the outside and I will probe when needed if something is really bad to put a picture in. But if you're in front, especially if the homeowner's home, you know, you got to be careful and read your audience. You do not want to start sticking probes, especially with some people, because they will just freak out on you. And even the client will be like, well, now it's no good. And you and I know that it was no good to begin with. We have moisture meters to identify higher risk areas above 20% moisture content. And you want to tap the logs to identify hollow or dull sounding logs indicating internal decay. Um, Again, I'm going to repeat when examining logs, always check areas where moisture accumulates, north walls, around downspouts, and near ground level. All right. Decay severity assessment. Stage one, surface decay, discoloration, and slight softening of the outer wood fibers. This is easily treatable, minimal structural impact. Stage two is moderate decay. Wood can be penetrated a quarter to a half inch with moderate pressure, requires intervention. And this is the beginning of a structural compromise of the wood. Stage three is advanced decay. Wood easily gives way to probe, feels fibrous and crumbles. That's a major repair. And stage four is a complete failure. Wood has lost structural integrity, often with visible voids. Replacement required, immediate safety concern. So when you're doing this, we inspect an electrical panel and we say, you got to call a licensed electrician, and everybody agrees with you. When your client says to you, what are we going to do now? You're not going to say call a licensed contractor because you probably know more than the licensed contractor, um, especially after this informative webinar. You want to have them call a specific contractor, people who build log homes, who repair log homes. You have to make it just not a licensed contractor. It has to be somebody who specializes in this building process and repair process. Log repair methods. So we're going to assess it. We're going to determine the extent of the damage and the appropriate repair strategy. Preservation for minor damage, we could consider consolidation with epoxy treatments. Partial replacement for localized damage, replace only the affected log portions. Full replacement, complete log replacement for extensively damaged log segments, sections. And preventative treatment, we're going to apply the appropriate sealants and preservatives after repairs. Full log replacement process. Wall support. We're going to insert a beam or steel plate through a slot in the damaged log and support with a hydraulic jack. We're going to remove and carefully cut away the rotten log using reciprocating saw and chisels. We're going to prepare the new log by cutting it, scribing it, and shape replacement log to match existing profile. And we're going to insert the new log, secure with appropriate fasteners and seal joints. We want to try to always match log species and style for seamless repairs. For screw holes, use a 1-inch fastener bit for clean countersinking, and then plug with matching wood dowels. So you have to be careful on these log homes too. I've done a couple of them where people will look at them and they'll say, it's a log home. And I'm like, no, it's not a log home. Looks like a log home. And this is wood that's been cut in a quarter, so you just see the outside of it. It's not a fully log home. Probably standard framing on the inside, and they just sheathed it with something that looks like a log. Repairing extended log ends. So we have those are the vulnerable areas. Log ends that extend beyond the roof protection are extremely susceptible to moisture and damage and decay. So we want to cut away only the damaged portion of the log on either end rather than the entire log. Attachment methods. Secure new log end pieces by angled screwing upwards into the log above or directly into the log end. Finishing details. Countersink log screws and plug holes with matching wood for seamless appearance. So that's how they go about repairing these extended log ends. Dutchman repairs for partial damage. The Dutchman technique, a traditional woodworking method for replacing only the damaged portion of a log while preserving the sound wood. This creates a precise, fitted patch that can maintain structural integrity and appearance. The damaged area is carefully cut away with a clean square edges to create a void. Replacement piece is precisely cut from matching wood and secured with adhesive or fasteners. And this is ideal for local damage where uh, the log can remain sound, and particularly used for repairing window and door frames and decorative elements. Log restoration with epoxy systems. So you're going to have to assess and determine if the log can be restored. Consolidation or preparation, we're going to remove any loose decay wood fibers and allow that area to dry thoroughly. We're going to apply a liquid epoxy to strengthen the remaining fibers. Filling, we're going to shape the epoxy filler to match the original log contour and texture. And then finishing, we're going to stain and seal to match the surrounding wood appearance. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to just chip out what's there, and we're going to put in something new that matches. Epoxy consolidation technique. So liquid wood application, deep penetrating two-part epoxy that restores strength to the deteriorated wood fibers. There's an injection method where they drill small holes into the damaged wood and inject epoxy using large syringes. The dilution option, acetone, can improve penetration depth but reduces overall strength. And curing process allows complete curing per manufacturing specifications before proceeding to fill. This technique works by surrounding the reinforced existing wood cells rather than replacing them. So we're just drilling into the rot and putting that epoxy in there. Epoxy filling systems for cavities. So we have a wood epoxy application, which is a shrink-free adhesive putty that replaces missing wood in the volume decayed areas, using after consolidation to rebuild lost material and restore original profiles. Uh, Blending techniques. We can add sawdust to improve the color and texture matching with surrounding wood so that everything looks nice and aesthetic. Finishing methods, we can add pigments to uncured epoxy for better coloring matches. Apply tan-based coat to cure epoxy before staining to achieve a more natural appearance. It's basically when we're using these epoxies, we want them to match aesthetically the wood that they're filling. Electrical considerations in log cabins. So these have some unique challenges. Solid log walls require special techniques different from conventional framing. There's safety consideration, proper metallic protection plates preventing future nail penetration into wiring. We want to create cases. Dedicated empty spaces must be created specifically to run wires through. And outlet placement. This requires strategic drilling and routing through solid wood structures. So we have to have a good plan when they build that. You have to check, make sure you have the appropriate number of outlets in a room, the height, where they're located. And again, checking the outlets like any other house. You're going to use your tester, check for grounding, proper wiring. So we have a couple of installation methods. The excuse me, access method. We drill through the floor and the bottom logs to access the basement wiring directly. Angle drilling technique. Drill from the center of the center log down to exit near the subfloor. Channel creation, which I got a picture of here. Okay. Run the wiring beneath the floor between sleepers or within the sill plate channels. And we want to install metal plates behind the trim to shield wires from accidental nail penetration. Overhead electrical installation. We have a door chase method. We're going to drill upwards through the log above the doorways to space between the ceiling and the rafters. We can use the rafter channels. We're going to run wires along the rafters or carve channels through the router with a router for seamless solid beam installations. Older structural insulated panels with pre-installed wiring chases simplify the roof system electrical work. So these are systems that are designed for log homes. Um, and then use hollow fake beams to cover wiring, seamlessly blending modern necessities with rustic aesthetics. Plumbing considerations. Again, same as most likely electrical. The chase design, plumbing chase must be incorporated during construction phase for easy installation. Plumbing fixtures should be clustered to minimize the number of required penetrations. And inspection access. And access panels must be provided at strategic points for future maintenance and repairs. Heating options. Log cabins present unique heating challenges due to exposed ceilings and walls that make traditional forced air systems impractical. So, how are we going to heat our log cabin? We can heat them by wood stoves, radiant floor heat, passive solar, strategic window placement can substantially reduce heating requirements. I was in a house a couple of days ago and they were saying that the master bedroom gets too hot and it was just three skylights and the thing was just basically an all windows. So they asked me what we could do and I just said shades. So I was really tired at the end of the inspection. Um, Common design problems to watch for. Water management issues, missing or leaking gutters, again, failing to direct water away from the logs, improper finishes we talked about, exposed log ends, landscaping problems, low foundation issues, allowing earth contact, again, the bottom logs, and pest entry points. Okay, so this is difficult to see. I'm going to we're going to finish this up in a second and I'm going to pull up another PowerPoint for you guys. So just give me a second because this is a log home exterior inspection checklist. Okay. So I have this on the website that you can download, but I'm going to see what's next and I'm going to thank you for attending. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to open up our home inspection checklist. And I hope this works. It's going to be embarrassing if it doesn't. Wow. There we go. And here we go. So here's our home inspect. We can all see this, I'm sure. So this is a list that we put together and about pretty much everything that we've talked about. It's a comprehensive list to identify potential issues in log homes. And basically what we have here, and we'll go through, it's only 10 pages and we have plenty of time. Faded on the south or west walls, and we have a yes or no, cracking or peeling or blistering, different shade on top of the log than the bottom of the log, a gray discoloration from weathering, and then we're going to talk about the finish conditioning, the absence of water repellency, the total absence of any finish whatsoever, the presence of mold, mildew, dust, dirt, so this is a checklist that you can use, or you can download this and make your own easier to use checklist. When walking around the outside of the home, pay attention to the roof line and the trim. Check all decks and roof overhangs for signs of mildew, white powder, droppings, or other damage from invasive insects such as termites, carpenter ants, everything that we've talked about. Sagging or uneven roof lines should be checked out by a log home professional. Um, Again, we talked about this, but I put this in the checklist. When checking the exterior, look for any places where wood is in contact with the soil. And then we're going to look for the log ends, green moss or algae. The corner should be probed. Did you do this? Yes or no? Look for sagging logs. They'll need replacement if rot exists. You can put a yes or no there. Structural and water issues. Look for upward facing checks. Those are cracks that water could collect in. Look for discoloration areas caused by repeated wetting. Look for gaps that may allow for air or water infiltration. Look for large checks that are unsightful. Again, this is your checklist that you can use. Um, Insect infiltration, structural integrity. Look for watermarks. Look for bowed or crooked logs. From the inside, look for daylight between logs. Check for air infiltration. Inspect organic growth or presence of thick mat of leaves or pine needles. Check for discoloration, rot, or excessive checking. This is on your roof here. Grading. We're going to check for wood touching the dirt. Yes or no. Check for firewood stacked against the house. Yes or no. Water management. Make sure the ground slopes away. Again, everything that we've talked about is in this checklist. Pest evidence. Look for tunnels under the house or on the foundation. Look for sawdust from insects that may be in logs. Basement crawl space, crucial inspection points. Check for standing water, termite, beetle holes. Check for signs of wood decay. Make sure all the wood in the contact with the ground is pressure treated. Overall exterior, check gutters, roof construction, that the overhangs are proper. Again, I have the chinking here. Any cracks or adhesion loss, yes or no. Caulking assessment, check if it's faded or hard. Sealant evaluation, that's in here. Interior finish, has there ever been any finish applied to the interior, yes or no? Point out areas where light switches that are dirty due to the oils being deposited by the logs. Customer education, advise the customer to benefit of interior finish. Ease of dusting, keep smoke and cooking odors from becoming ingrained in the wood on that ceiling. So this is all in this checklist that you can download from our site. So that's where we stand on log homes. Again, let me get out of this so that we don't see it. Let's see. Close that. We're on the screen sharing. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't know if you answered it, Jim, but there was one. When did machine one start being produced?
Let's see.
1920s or 30s, I believe. Yeah, I kind of 1920s, I think, is when they first started.
Okay. Yeah, let's see what we got here. Yeah, early 20th century. Early machine production, 1900 to 1930s. So that's when that happened. Here's, a lot of this stuff was kind of dry. I get it. Again, the issue with the log home is that you don't see them all the time. And when I started doing this, I by chance just had a couple of log homes and really shouldn't have inspected them because I just didn't know what I was doing. And I just created a checklist. I did as much research as I could do, got continuing education. And that checklist is important because if you've been doing this for a while, I can go through a home and I don't even need my software. I don't need any notes. I know what to do. I've done it 6,000 times. So I can go through your colonial, your ranch, and I can just go through that home and talk to you and tell you what's going on and write a home inspection report. I can do it in my sleep. A log home, not so much. I really have to spend that time looking on the outside because I'm not taking a look at chinking all the time. I'm not taking a look at log damage all the time. I'm just not experienced in it. So I have to take my time and I rely on my checklist to make sure I'm not missing anything, especially if I'm not doing them, all the time. So I find the list very helpful and just I find the education of it extremely helpful to know the terminology and what to look for and how to express that to a customer. When you have a client that's purchasing a log home, this is not somebody that looked at 10 homes and just likes the price of a log home. They're buying a log home on purpose because they want one. And they probably, in some instances, may know more about log homes than you do. So that's why this education is important. It's good knowledge to have. But I feel that once you get into the interior of the house, your kitchens, your bathrooms, your ventilation, your attic ventilation, usually are all the same. A lot of them don't even have attics. They're just open space, up top. You can just sit in the living room and just look all the way up to the roof pitch, to the peak. But these are usually very interesting houses to inspect. I like getting them because it's something different. But there are, as we discussed in this webinar, special things to look out for and to express to the client. So,
And just keep in
Stan,
mind,
do you have anything to add? Or Scott?
I was going to say, just keep, I mean, I've done maybe one, two, if I can remember, but I mean, we inspect houses with wood all the time. We, you know, a lot of the things you discuss, you know, today, you know, it's things that we see on other, you know, roof leaks. You look up in a log cabin, there's a stain, something's going on, you know. So a lot of the stuff that we do on conventionally built homes, you can apply that to this. Plumbing leaks, you know, all the stuff on the inside, electrical issues. You may not be able to see it all, but certainly, you know, I mean, we just don't do a lot here now. You know, other states obviously, but in Connecticut, I think I might have done two over 20 years or so. So
if I can chime in on that, I've done probably at least a couple dozen over the years, and the biggest thing I've seen with those is that all the penetrations through the walls on many of them were showing signs of water intrusion. I mean, I see that. I'd say about 3/4 of those that I've inspected, water staining galore coming through where the windows are installed, skylight, you name it. If there's a hole through that wall or ceiling, I have seen water stains in the majority of those. And
Right.
and I talked to a log cabin contractor, a guy out of the Maine, who builds them. They mill them there, and he agrees that those were probably mostly done, you know, incorrectly. You know, they didn't have proper packings and seals and things in, or they settled and started opening up. The second part I've seen a lot of is I'm in a bedroom and you can actually see light coming through from the exterior. That's always pretty interesting to find. So they are different, but you know, you guys are all inspectors. You would catch those things too. I mean, but just know. I mean, how many stick homes do you see where a lot of the windows are showing signs of leakage? Really, I mean, not that many, you know. But this, it's like most of them. It's amazing.
Where are you from, Ed? Where are you out of?
Western Mass. I live in East Hampton.
So
and
yeah,
I'm licensed. I do Connecticut, Western
So
Mass. I'm in the hill areas a lot.
what part of Mass?
Huh?
What part of Mass are you seeing a lot of the log homes?
I don't see a lot. No, I see them right Westfield. I'll see them up in the hill areas. I'll see them out down in Connecticut in the hill areas. They're scattered. They're not. There's not like an area that says, we're at log homes everywhere. And even the cheap ones are versus the really expensive high end. Like Mary had that picture of that real beautiful one that didn't have the railings and that some of those are in Connecticut and they're beautiful, but you really start looking at them, you'll be surprised. And insurance companies, I'm told too, are really getting down on them. So I'm usually, when I see that, I automatically just recommend they get a log cabin contractor, a licensed log cabin contractor to come in and do a further evaluation on whatever I might be finding, or precast.
Would you have everybody? Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you see a lot of the precast footings or poles, whatever you want to call them nowadays. You'll see those from back in log cabin days, where in the center of the house, where they can actually adjust the beams and the posts in the center. It's quite amazing, some of the stuff I see. But they are, I agree with you, they are different. I haven't done more than maybe a couple of dozen in 20 years. But
so let me ask you a question, or even Scott or Stan, would you, if you had a big log home that you're going out, or any log home, would you consider calling a log home specialist to come out with you if possible?
No.
To sort of, no.
I would do an initial evaluation just to see what's going on. I have seen what you've talked about, the too close to grade, and the bottom row of logs are usually rotted out. You can sound them with a rubber mallet so you don't dent the log. I've got infrared I've been using forever, so I can, that doesn't always help, but it takes me longer and it's a little trickier. I agree. I was nervous the first one I did. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
We have a question here.
Oh, I'm sorry. If anybody have any issues with log cabins, I have a guy that did when we went to go see those log cabins, I'm going to say 10, 15 years ago. So I still have his contact. So if you need any assistance, let me know. We can.
The guy up in Maine, I guess, I can't think of, I think it's in Maine. I can't think of his name. They actually manufacture things up there for log cabins and that. And he created one. They used to take them apart and rebuild them. He started with barns, and now they're a big name up there. I can't think of his name.
I have Northeastern Log Home. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah, no, there's a few of them out there, and some of them are, are just built somewhere else and then assembled by somebody who didn't know. That's the same thing I run into all the time with prefab homes, where they're built in Milwaukee. They hire a contractor out here who's never seen one, and then you guys have seen that. All the different issues that go on with that. So it's similar. But anyway, I thought I'd share with you. I haven't seen a lot of them, but over 20 years or so. But I've seen a couple dozen at least.
So we do have a question from Ryan. He does not understand the roofing structure on a log home. The huge logs that go the length of the house are visible, and then the roof the roof looks like it just sits on the top of that. There's no attic, so I can't see how that all is attached. So that really goes into the construction technique. You may have logs that meet to a main ridge beam. You may have logs that are notched that fit on a main ridge beam. You may have a log home that has a truss roof. There's many different techniques. You just have to get
you may have a log cabin that's first floor log cabin and stick building second floor, third floor.
Yes. Yeah.
I've seen that.
So really, it just all the roof structures are different, and you just have to get in there just see what the roof structure is like. And if you're standing in the main area of the home and you look up and you just see the logs could be abutted on each other, they could be on a main ridge beam again. So there's many different techniques that they can use to build a roof.
And with the walls, sometimes they use panels. They don't actually build framing for a window or a door. It's a panel that they cut out and they just insert it. It's
Gotcha.
It's definitely different. Yeah. So yep. I'm not sure I'd want to own one, but anyway, I thought I'd share.
But thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. If anybody has any questions, speak now, or you can email them to us after. In 2 weeks, we have environmental issues in home inspections. This will be presented by Stan Bajerski. I'm 2 weeks in a row now, and I got the fun log cabin, so he gets to do environmental issues. And we have on our website the list. And we also, if you go on to download logos, you can download logos for past webinars that you viewed, or this logo for log homes, which is kind of cool we made. And the password, it's password protected. The password to get into that page is Cornerstone. So it's kind of easy to remember. And again, if anybody has any questions, you'll get your certificates either later tonight or early tomorrow morning. So I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes.